G'day again. Welcome back to Mathematics 302. Hope you're having a good morning or good evening. I pray God's blessing your study and possibly your teaching. If you're on prac, then I pray God has blessed your prac or is blessing your prac. Okay, this is lecture 9, part C. So we just continue on with revision for assessment 2. This will be parts like 11 to 17, again, taking it from previous lectures and trying to create new questions, making sure I don't copy the actual exam question here. Okay, so we'll get on with this. Let's go. Okay, so the norm of a vector, and I've put some of these formulas onto the last page of the assessment. So determine the norm of the vector 3, 4, 5. This is very straightforward, just having Pythagoras in your head for it. In 3 dimensions, this is the square root of the sum of the squares of the component vectors. So you're just going to square each of them and square root the whole lot. So pretty easy. The norm of that, 3 squared plus 4 squared plus 5 squared, add it all together and take the square root and get the square root of 50. That will be fine. I'll give you full marks for that. Nicer, of course, if you wrote 5 root 2. Obviously, if it says decimals, then do that. Norm of a matrix, there are 4 types of norms for matrices. So the 1 norm, 2 norm, 3 norm, 4 norm. The standard norm is just the maximum sum of the columns. The spectral norm is the square root of the largest eigenvalue of A transform A. Infinity norm is the maximum sum of the absolute value of the rows. So these two are identical, just transposed. They're just one's across, one's down. Obviously not the same answers, but one's just downwards and one's across. And the Frobenius norm, that is the most common one. You don't usually use the word Frobenius norm, but again, this is the square root of the sum of the squares of every single element. This is the most common one. Depending on what the lecturer or the person is doing the thing, but this is obviously really common because it matches the same as a vector, say Frobenius norm. Okay, so for the 2-dimensional matrix, 1, 2, also 1 minus 1, 2, 4. The norm for the columns is 5. The norm for the spectral is 4.497. The infinity norm is 6, and the Frobenius norm is 4.69. So right now, let's go through and see how you do all that. And you can do it with an Omni calculator, and that's how I've just figured out all those answers. Now here you're doing it. Here we're going to do it step by step, so you know what to do in a test. Okay, determine the 1 norm, which is the columns. So all we're going to do is add up the columns. 1 plus 2 is 3. So absolute values, absolute values. 1 plus 4 is 5 absolute values. The biggest number, the maximum, is 5. That's the answer. The 1 norm is therefore 5. Okay. Before I do the next one, I just wanted to do a revision of the determinant because we're going to use the determinant in the part 2. So revising the determinant for any 2-dimensional matrix A, B, C, D, the determinant is A times D minus B times C. So this subtract this. And here's an example for the 2, 5, minus 3, minus 4. I've just made it up. The determinant is going to be 2 times minus 4, so that way. Subtract 5 times minus 3. And we just do that. 2 times minus 4 is minus 8. 5 times minus 3 is minus 15. Minus minus is a plus. Minus 8 plus 15 is 7. So the determinant of this thing is 7. I'm going to move my image out of the way because I've got something to show you down here. Again, just as a reminder, it won't necessarily be in the assessment, but I thought it's worth reminding you of it anyway. The key use of the determinant is a to the negative 1 equals I, which is the identity matrix. So this is a really common use for finding the determinant, is to find this, the inverse, or the a to the negative 1. And how you're doing that, again, doing a reminder, won't necessarily be in the assessment, might be. 1 over 7 is the determinant. The adjugate is just figuring out this is minus 4, minus 5, 3, 2. If you don't remember how to do the adjugate from first year or second year, hopefully it was done in both years. The adjugate for A, B, C, D is we're going to flip the A and D. So swap A, D, negate B, C. So the A and D swap places. There's D. and we're just going to make those negatives. So that's all I've done here. I've swapped these two. So if you look at this, 2 and 4, 2 and minus 4 swap places, and minus 3 and 5 just become negatives. So minus 3 becomes 3, 5 becomes negative 5. So this is the adjugate matrix. And now if you multiply the original by this, which is a to the negative 1, the determinant plus multiplied by the adjugate, that is a to the negative 1, you then get the identity matrix, and you can do that step by step. If I just do the first one, 2 times minus 4 is minus 8, 3 times 5 is 15, minus 8 plus 15 is 7, 1/7 of 7 is 1. Okay, you can do the other ones. So there we go. So that's just reminders of matrix multiplication and the determinant. Okay, for the two-dimensional matrix, 1, minus 1, 2, 4, determine the spectral norm, which is the maximum lambda of A transform A. So I've included this formula in the assessment last page. So A transform A, so we've got 1, 2, minus 1, 4, and 1, minus 1, 2, 4. So now notice here, this is not A to the negative 1, this is A transform. So it's a lot simpler than A to the negative 1. So we just want this, so this is going to multiply 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 1 plus 4 is 5, 1 times minus 1 is minus 1, 2 times 4 is 8, minus 1 plus 8 is 7. Do it again on the bottom row. Minus 1 times 1 is minus 1, 4 times 2 is 8, so 8 subtract 1 is 7, and then minus 1 times minus 1 is 1, 4 times 4 is 16, 16 plus 1 is 17, so that's A transform A. So we want the maximum lambda of this thing, so here we go, we want the maximum lambda of this, so we are going to now find the determinant of A minus lambda I. And so all we're going to do is 5 minus lambda there and 17 minus lambda there. And we're going to find the determinant of that. So we're going to do the same thing we did on the previous frame, which is these two multiplied together, subtract these two. So we get 5 minus lambda multiplied by 17 minus lambda, minus 7 times 7 is going to be 49. So that's just the determinant. What we'll end up with is a quadratic. So expand this and we get 85 minus 22 lambda plus lambda squared, minus times minus is a plus, minus 49. Let's move this around. So with lambda at the start, lambda squared at the start, then lambda, then a number, and we get lambda squared minus 22 lambda plus 36 is 0. Now, if you could factorize that in brackets. Unlikely that you're going to do that in the majority of instances when you do these things. So you're going to have to use the quadratic formula, which you would have learnt in year 10 in high school. So it's minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Hopefully you know that off by heart, so you can just mouth it off straight out of memory to your year 10 students when you're doing that. So there's your lambda. That's what's going to equal. Simplify that. We get 22 plus 18.439 over 2, or 22 minus 18.439 over 2. Now, since you know you're looking for the maximum, you probably don't really need to do this. You could just concentrate on doing, I just want the plus section and ignore this. I'm doing both to show you. But if you're trying to find the maximum, you're really only after whatever this number is here, the biggest number. So we're going to get 20.22 or 1.78. Obviously, this is the biggest number. We now want to do the square root of the maximum lambda. So the largest eigenvalue is 20.22. Spectral norm is going to be the square root of that, which is 4.497. And you're done. So this is the most complex one you'll do when you're finding out the norms, doing the spectral norm. It's very straightforward, but easy to make a mistake. Two-dimensional matrix, and here we're doing the same thing. Find the 3 norm, which is just the rows. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and 2 plus 4 is 6. Again, doing absolute values. What is the biggest one? 6. Therefore, the infinity norm is 6. Very, very straightforward. determine the fornorm, which is the Frobenius norm. You're just going to square everything. So 1 squared plus minus 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 4 squared. Add that all up, and you get 1 plus 1 plus 4 plus 16 is 22. Square root of 22, you could leave it like that, and that would be acceptable as an answer, or 4.69. The remainder of the questions are really worded questions. The last four things I'll go through here are worded questions where you're really, in some instances, you're saying, what is the Cauchy criterion? And you're responding to that. And there might be a little question on that, but nothing where you're doing actual calculation. So the Cauchy criterion is a sequence where a sequence is considered Cauchy if for all epsilon's greater than 0, there exists some n such that am minus an is less than that epsilon for all m and n which are greater than n. So that's where you've got a sequence considered Cauchy. A nested interval is an infinite sequence of closed, bounded, and in nested intervals has a non-empty intersection, meaning there is at least one real number common to all the intervals in the sequence. So that's a nested interval. The Gödel incompleteness theorem, that was a fun one to create a question. I've actually included on the next frame. Next slide, any consistent formal system F within a certain amount of within which a certain amount of elementary arithmetic can be carried out is incomplete. In other words, there is no such thing as a complete system. That is, there are statements in the language of F which can neither be proved nor disproved in F. So that was Gödel's incompleteness theorem. He considered that there was nothing that was actually complete. Completeness is where there is an ordered set, like the real numbers, where every non-empty subset that is bounded above has at least an upper bound, and every non-empty subset that is bounded below has a greatest lower bound. And then I did in the lecture Gödel versus Peano. We try to make up a Gödel sentence. There's no way to prove or disprove there's an infinite number of primes in Peano arithmetic. And then we went through the logic. In Peano arithmetic, there's an infinite number of natural numbers. There are more natural numbers than prime numbers. Since there are less primes than naturals, there must be less than infinity of the prime numbers. But there's infinite natural numbers, and since that's uncountable, there's also an uncountable infinite number of primes. Now, you can't have both of these things true at the same time. Therefore, the Gödel sentence is true. Therefore, the system of Peano numbers is incomplete. Okay, as soon as you've got a conflict, then it's true. And again, using that same type of logic in proving things by saying one thing and then proving it the other way. The Bolzano, I'll move the image out of the way here. Bolzano-Weierstrass theorem, every bounded sequence of real numbers contains a convergent subsequence. This means that if the entire sequence does not converge, you can always find part of the sequence, a subsequence that does converge to a limit. So that was Bolzano-Weierstrass, and there is actually a question on that, which you would have done, we've done previously in like part 1, 2, 3, not question 1, 2, 3 previously. But at this point, when you ask something about that theorem, it won't be a number calculation. Norms and ball relationship. A norm defines a distance of a point from the origin, and the corresponding ball is a set of all points that have a distance less than or equal to a given radius. If we have a union of an open ball and a sphere, we get a closed ball. That's that one. And if we consider the points which only include the boundary, then we have a sphere. But really concentrate on this definition. Okay, that's it for my revision for assessment 2. All the best. God bless you. Stay safe. And I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.